All right, so taking up a challenge, not only Cleo and the music team, but taking up a challenge is our ministerial student. So she is about 1 year away from graduating, and I thought, well, it was time for her to get up here and start sharing her wisdom and practicing. So we're super, super excited to have our practitioner and ministerial student, Lahoma Abdus-Salaam, provide you with a message today. Many of you know her as Lahoma, but she is now going by Faye, which is my granddaughter's middle name, which I love. It's a beautiful name. And so with all of the love in our hearts, let us welcome Faye up here to the platform. I was supposed to put the, here, I was supposed to do that for you. Sorry, I was supposed to do that for you, and that for you. Wait a minute. There.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, let's see. I'm going to hold the mic and do this at the same time. First of all, thank you. Thank you, all of you. Brad, Jonathan, Scott, Cleo, Candy, Valerie, thank you so much. I love that song. So, what you thinking of? What are you thinking of? Change your thinking, change your life. Today I'm going to talk about thinking in a certain way, how to use the will and imagination. I'm going to be quoting from the book, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. And even though the book, he talks about getting rich, it's really about mastering your mind to manifest what it is you want to desire, whether it's money, health, relationships. So what are we changing? Last week, Dr. Petra gave a list of things we need to change, which I'll talk about later. But first, I want to talk about attention and focus. Well, it went away. It's okay. So the slide would have said, the creative power within us makes us into the image of that which we give our attention. The creative power within us makes us into the image of that which we give our attention. Just really think about that. I don't see our teaching symbol. The teaching symbol comes to mind because you have the circle and then the V, and at the top you have the thought, the idea. And in the middle, you have the soil where you plant the idea. And then the bottom is the manifestation. And so the V, the downward side, the left side is involution. That's where the process is taking place, where the creative power within us makes us into the image of that which we put our attention. So first we need to know what it is that we want. Wallace Wattles says, when you know what to think and do, then you must use your will to compel yourself to think and do the right things. That is the legitimate use of the will in getting what you want, to use it in holding yourself to the right course. When he speaks of what to think and do, what he's talking about is what we want. When we know when we know what to think and do, we know what we want. You must have a clear, definite mental picture of what you want You cannot transmit an idea unless you have it for yourself. Once you get a clear picture, then you must be mindful about the story that you tell. So last week, Dr. Petra talked about a story where the dad gave the little girl some plastic pearls. And so she said how the plastic pearls represented the limitations and the stories that we tell ourselves. So I want to tell you about a friend of mine. She had health issues, respiratory issues from her birth. And so she struggled with breathing. And one of her doctors recommended that she move out of state because he was like, you're going to continue to struggle with breathing as long as you stay here in Texas. So he gave her 3 states that had better air quality, and she chose California. But in her mind, she's like, the cost of living, California, that's too much. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And so I was just talking to her. I was like, don't focus on the conditions. Think about what you want. Do you want to go to California? What does it look like if you go to California? So for a year, she started to prepare herself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And it was like a week before we were to leave, because I was going to drive up there with her. I decided to go with her. And it was literally a week before she was to leave. She did not have a place to live. She did not have a job. She decided to go to Bible study that Wednesday night. And in Bible study, she shared with the group what she was about to do. She was like, I don't have a job, I don't have a place to live, but I'm going on God's faith, on the faith that God is going to take care of me. I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. Someone in the Bible study went to her afterwards and said, hey, I know someone in California. I don't know if she can help you, but let me reach out to her and connect you to her. Maybe, she can help you out. My sister connected with the lady, and they ended up hitting it off. Great. So we drove out there. My sister went and lived with her for like a year or two, and she became like a second mother for my sister. So the key was that she kept the vision of, I'm going to California. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going. So let's talk about creative thought and competitive thought. The book, Science of Getting Rich, he specifies the difference between creative thought and competitive thought. Creative thought is when we use our imagination. Competitive thought is when we look at the conditions in front of us and we try to create based upon what we're looking at. Wallace Waddles says, to think according to appearances is easy. To think truth, regardless of appearances, is laborious and requires the expenditure of more power than any other work man has called upon to perform. There is no labor from which most people shrink, as they do from that of sustained and consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. This is especially true when truth is contrary to appearance. Oh. I didn't know that feature was there. This is really fun, guys. All right, let's see where this is going. Okay. There we go. Creative thought uses the imagination. So, what are you imagining? What are you creating? What story are you telling? Joe Dispenza says, the hardest part about change is making a new choice. Yeah, I just realized that. The voice of God. So this includes the mental rehearsal of a new outcome. It becomes a map to the future. When we meditate, we're present. When we are present, we use our will, which is greater than the program. It tells the body it's not the mind, and the body then is trained by the mind. The moment of creation is in the now, the present moment, which means if you're not present, you're recreating what was and what has been. You're in the known, familiar past, or predictable future. Wallace Wattles says, that's what Wallace Wattles meant by competitive thought, thinking based on the conditions. As we imagine or reimagine our lives or what we desire, we give life to it by way of the will. Now, Webster says that the will is the faculty by which a person decides on and initiates action. In the book, Wallace talks about it is the nature of us choosing what we put our attention on, what we choose to fix our focus on. How many of you watch the Super Bowl? Okay. Tons of people tune in to the Super Bowl. It's once a year. The length of the commercials during the Super Bowl are approximately 30 seconds. A CNN article in February of 2022 of this year said that each commercial cost $7 million each because roughly 100 million people watch the Super Bowl. Think about that. Each commercial, 30 seconds, $7 million. Do you see the value in paying attention? Because the companies, they're paying for it. They're paying millions of dollars for our attention. Do you see the importance of what we pay attention to? James 1:8 says, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. In other words, a person who has doubts and is thinking about two different things at the same time and can't make up his mind about anything. To think what you want to think is to think truth, regardless of appearances. Paying attention is being present. If you're not in the present moment, you're running a program. So it's imperative to use your mind to form a mental image of what you want and to hold that vision with faith and purpose. And use your will to keep your mind working in the right way. So thinking and acting goes hand in hand. So I have an example for you. Some years ago, I was married, and my ex-husband used to give me a hard time about being on time. And so he would say, you need to get ready, to get ready, to get ready. And so it became a joke. And so anytime I was getting ready to go somewhere, he'd say, which getting ready are you on? And I'd be like 3. And so he'd know how much time to gauge, to give me time to get myself together so that we could leave. So a couple weeks ago, I was having a conversation with someone, and she was talking about her challenges with time. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know about that. I got to get ready to get ready to get ready. And she was like, oh, that's me too. I have to get ready. I need multiple getting readies. And I heard myself in the midst of saying it, and I was like, oh, snap. How is that working out for me? And immediately it was like a movie scene played over my mind, inside my mind. And I saw all the ways that I was getting ready to get ready to get ready. Whether it was traveling, relationships, work, ministry, I was getting ready to get ready. And so I just made a conscious decision. I was like, no more. I stopped. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm ready now. And so I just started to affirm, I'm ready now. And it's interesting what happened after that. Once I made that decision, I noticed, one, I got an email for an opportunity to speak at another center. That was easy, right? The other deal is a childhood friend that I've known since probably 12 actually reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm interested. And it was like, oh, that was too easy. So how did I do it? Joe Dispenza talks about overcoming the body, the environment, external conditions, familiar past, working for the present moment. We have to overcome the old story and tell a new story. I realized I hadn't released my identity as a nanny. Some of you know I work with children. I started out working as a teacher, and then I started working as a nanny. Well, in the summertime, I got clear that I was like, I'm ready to move into ministry now. I don't want to wait till I graduate. And so I had to work through, what does that look like? If I move into ministry now, what does that look like? I don't know. All I had was a vision of childhood ministry, what I experienced as a child, and I knew I didn't want that. Oops. Okay. Yeah, that's why I was like, So I knew that I didn't want what I experienced as a child. And so I was like, okay, well, let me just play around with what I wanted to look like. And so as I started to imagine a new vision, what I noticed is different things. Well, Petra asked me to speak today. That happened after I made the decision to move into ministry. But what I realized after I made the decision that I'm ready now, when I started affirming that, I didn't realize I hadn't released my identity as a nanny. And so it was like, well, who am I without being a nanny? And I heard inside my mind, childless. And it was like, that hurt. But I realized, I was like, that's not true. I have tons of kids that I love on, that love me, that I will always have around me. And so it was like, oh, I can let that go. That's a lie. Get thee behind me, as they say. So as I didn't touch it that time. I'm like, thank you, God up there. So yeah, once I let that go, then it was like, okay, I have a clean slate. I felt clean. It was like, okay, now I know I can fully move into ministry because I don't have that identity clinging and holding on. Joe Dispenza says, our current personality, what you think, how you act, how you feel, has created the personal reality that you're experiencing. So to get a new experience, we must change the personality. Dr. Petra last week talked about changing our feelings, our attitude, the beliefs, the behavior, causal living, changing the consciousness. We have to become someone else. The act of becoming is a function of overcoming. We have to do it over and over and over again. As we do that, we allow ourselves to feel connected to the future, which aids in change. That means holding the vision of what we desire and making it real by way of our senses. What does it look like? What do I hear? What does it feel like? What does it taste like, depending on, what the situation is? And that allows us to live from the inside instead of the outside. Lastly, Joe Dispenza talks about a grace period of transformation where we have to cross the river from the old self to the new self. That void, the unknown. I liken this phase, this period of transformation, to the 3 days that Jesus was in the tomb, or the phase that a butterfly goes through when it's in the cocoon. While the time period is different for everyone, one thing is the same. We each must be in it. We must experience it, allowing the growth, expansion, and the process to happen. One way to collapse time is through gratitude. When we're grateful, it aligns us with the divine and all the good that goes with it. Whether it happens fast or takes time, the key is to stay with it, to keep at it, until what you desire outpictures. So I ask, how much do you want it? That experience. How much do you want that relationship? How much do you want that job? How much do you want to travel? How much do you want whatever it is that you desire? Do you love yourself enough to master your mind, to change your life? Do you love life and those dear to you enough to change your thinking, to change your life? We know that when we shift our consciousness, we help shift the collective consciousness. So we get to change the world, making it a world that works for everyone. So I ask, are you willing? Are you ready? I know I am. Thank you.
Do you want to pray us out?
Sure.
You should do a spiritual mind treatment for us, for all of what you just talked about.
Thank you. Let's go within. Breathing in that creative substance. That makes us into the image of that we put our attention on. Knowing that it is expressing in, as, and through each person right here, right now. For it is life, it is love, it is joy, it is peace, it is abundance. It is for life. It is for me. It is for you. And so as I know that the consciousness that expresses in, as, and through each person, I know that that consciousness also wants to give exactly what is desired within each person's consciousness. Life is for life. It supports life always, in all ways. This goes from the breath to the heart to our ability to move about this planet with ease. The support from gravity, the support from the law of circulation with the water cycle, the support in nature, the changing of the seasons, the earth staying on its axis. It's all God and it's all good. And so I stand firm knowing and claiming that we each stand in the truth that we are not bound by the conditions, that we are not fooled by appearances, that we hold firm to the truth, the principles, that there is only love, only health, only well-being, only abundance, only good, peace. And so whatever is in the heart of each person under the sound of my voice, I know it is already done. For Wallace Waddles says that once we have a thought, all things start moving towards the manifestation of that thought. And so I am truly grateful for the law, its perfect execution. I'm grateful for this teaching that we can use to change our lives. And I'm grateful to know that all is well. And in joyous gratitude, I let this go and I let it be. And we affirm it together by saying, and so it is.
Lahoma Abdus-Salaam. Great job. Great job.